So what place do you think of when I say the place Jersey? I think many would think I was talking about the state of New Jersey in the United States, which is often just called Jersey to drop the new. Okay, what if I also say the word Guernsey? Okay, now you might be thinking of cattle. Here's my little cow friend here. Jersey and Guernsey cows, right? Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Fun with Maps. I'm your host Dan Hansen. In this episode we're looking at some islands. Well, here's Jersey in the United States on the East Coast, right? But we're looking at about 3,500 miles across the ocean to in the English Channel here, okay? Jersey and Guernsey are the two biggest of the Channel Islands, which are an archipelago in the English Channel off the French coast of Normandy. So remember, an archipelago is just a closely scattered cluster of islands. It could be a cluster, they could be in a chain, they could be scattered irregularly. Think of the Hawaiian Islands, the Florida Keys, the Bahamas, Philippines, Indonesia, islands in the Aegean Sea. Those are all examples of archipelagos, and so are the Channel Islands, which we're looking at today. It's interesting because the Channel Islands are divided into two crown dependencies: the bailiwick of Jersey, Jersey's the larger of the two, and the bailiwick of Guernsey. So we'll learn what a bailiwick is. We'll see about Jersey and Guernsey. And yes, there is a connection between the state of New Jersey to the Channel Islands, and there's a connection to the cows, the Jersey and Guernsey cows, our friends here. So let's take a look in this episode of Fun with Maps. So the English Channel, or just sometimes just called the Channel, it's an arm of the Atlantic Ocean. It separates south of England here from the north of France here. Okay, so the Atlantic Ocean's over here, and up here it links to the southern part of the North Sea, which is up here through the Strait of Dover here. Okay, so this is London, this is England, here's Wales here, France, we'll see this is Normandy and Brittany, and we're going to be looking at Jersey and Guernsey here in the Channel Islands. This is the English Channel. Rouen, that's a sister city of Cleveland, Ohio, in Normandy here on the Seine. So this is a channel. Let me digress with this Fun with Maps facts here. So the English Channel is the busiest shipping area in the world. Each day more than 500 vessels cross. It's about 350 mile long English Channel. Cargo vessels carrying everything from oil to wheat share the channel with passenger ferries, fishing vessels, pleasure crafts, and even the occasional swimmer. So when you say something's the busiest, you immediately wonder, well, what's next in line? So the next busiest was something I didn't know. That's the Strait of Malacca. That's a narrow 580-mile stretch of water between the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian island of Sumatra. And the Strait of Malacca is so busy because it's the shortest sea route between India and China. Okay, third would be the Panama Canal. It's about 14,000 ships navigate through that each year. Then the Suez Canal. That's the fastest crossing from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. Then the Bosphorus Strait, it's also known as the Strait of Istanbul. It's a narrow natural strait in northwest Turkey, about 19 miles long, and it links the Black Sea with the world's oceans. Then there's the Straits of Hormuz. That's in the waters of Iran and Oman in the Persian Gulf. And about a third of the world's sea-traded oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz every day. Then the Danish Straits, they interlink the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. North Sea up here and the Baltic Sea up there, which you can't see right now, and that's a key pathway for oil between Russia and Europe. And finally, the St. Lawrence Seaway, that's more than 2,300 miles from the Atlantic Ocean through Canada to the head of the Great Lakes. So, okay, let's get back to the English Channel from someone named Norman Einstein. And so I said the English Channel's 300 to 350 nautical miles along here. It's about 130 nautical miles at its widest, which we'll see in a minute, which actually goes through the Channel Islands here. And it's about 18 nautical miles at its narrowest here from Dover, to Calais here in France. So as we look at this map, here's England, there's London, Dover, the North Sea. Here's the Netherlands with Amsterdam, Rotterdam. Here's Brussels, Luxembourg down here. Here's France, Normandy, Brittany. Over here we'll see the Channel Islands. This is a good photo by someone named Rolf Susbrich. It's taken from Cap Gris-Nez, which is in France. Shot it over the English Channel to the Cliffs of Dover back here. You might have heard of the White Cliffs of Dover. And you can see, just how close it is there. Here's the White Cliffs of Dover on the English coast, and on a clear day like this, you can see it from France. So with it being so close in this channel here, you can see how the channel really aided the United Kingdom in becoming both a naval superpower and serving as a natural defense to halt attempted invasions, whether it's the Napoleonic Wars or the Second World War or whatever. Let's take a quick look at this map, which focuses on France, but the northern part of the channel is actually more populous than the southern part. The northern English part is more populous than the southern French coast. So here we've got the United Kingdom. Ireland's up there, the Celtic Sea, North Sea, Strait of Dover, English Channel, Atlantic Ocean over here. Here's Jersey, which we'll see in a minute. Guernsey. These are the Channel Islands we're looking at. Germany, Netherlands up here, Belgium, Luxembourg, all that. Here's Rouen, our sister city in Cleveland, along the Seine. And we'll see the Isle of Wight here in a minute. This is a pretty good map. It really gives you some perspective how narrow it is here, the English Channel, and how small both Jersey and Guernsey are, and you can't even see the other Channel Islands. They're so small. So this is a map from 1789, and it's in French, but this is what we would call Brittany. Okay, here's the Atlantic Ocean. Here's Brittany. Here's what we call Normandy. Here's the channel up here. This would be Jersey. This would be Guernsey, and the other two big ones in the Channel Islands, which we'll look at in a second. So this is a map by someone called Idarvol, I-D-A-R-V-O-L. And, we saw that here's the narrowest part of the channel, but the widest part is between Lyme Bay. Here's the Bay of Lyme, Bay de Lyme. This is obviously French language map. And down here at the Gulf of St. Malo. Here's St. Malo. Here's the Gulf of St. Malo. Here's the Lyme Bay. And this is its widest. And it goes right through these Channel Islands. There's Jersey, there's Guernsey. And they'll call it the Ile Anglo-Normande in French, okay? There's some other major islands in the channel besides the Channel Islands, and I guess the big one here is the Isle of Wight, Ile de Wight. Here, here's a fun with maps fact. The Isle of Wight has a music festival every year, and in 1970, Jimi Hendrix was the headliner, and 600,000 people showed up for the Isle of Wight festival featuring Jimi Hendrix in 1970. And that was 6 times what the population of the whole island was, so really popular. And you may have heard about the Isle of Wight in the Beatles song, When I'm 64. Paul sings about every summer we can rent a cottage in the Isle of Wight if it's not too dear. So the Isle of Wight, if you're wondering where that is, that's right there in the English Channel. So as I said, the Channel Islands here, they're an archipelago just off the French coast of Normandy there. 2 major islands, Jersey and Guernsey. They make up 99% of the population and 92% of the area. Okay, and it gets a little tricky here, a little complicated. So they're divided, the Channel Islands are divided into 2 what's called crown dependencies. The bailiwick of Jersey, which the largest of the islands here, and the bailiwick of Guernsey. Now, the bailiwick of Guernsey includes the island of Guernsey here, the island of Sark, there's the island of Herm, which you can't see, and the island of Alderney, and somewhat smaller islands as well. So what's a bailiwick? Again, kind of complicated. A bailiwick is the area of jurisdiction of a bailiff, territories in which a privately appointed bailiff exercises functions under a royal writ. So it literally means bailiff's village, a bailiwick. So Jersey and Guernsey, the other Channel Islands, they represent the last remnants of the medieval Duchy of Normandy that held sway in both France and England. So the bailiwick of Jersey is a British Crown dependency. So what that means, it's not part of the UK. It's the UK up here. It's not part of the UK. It's a self-governing possession, though, of the British Crown. But the UK government is constitutionally responsible for its defense and international representation. And so, for example, King Charles III reigns in Jersey because Jersey is a dependency of the British Crown. So it's not part of the UK, but it is under Charles III. Channel Islands is actually a geographical term, not a political unit. And these two bailiwicks, Jersey and Guernsey, they've been administered separately since the late 13th century. They've got independent laws, elections, and representative bodies. So, like we say, they're not part of the UK, but the UK is responsible for them. And it's got other crown dependency, the Isle of Man, which we can't see here, and the British Overseas Territories. So these crown dependencies, they're not members of the Commonwealth of Nations, they're not part of the European Union, anything like that, and altogether they've only got about 170,000 people. Here's a map of Jersey, just the shape of it. I mean, it's just kind of stuck out there. It's an island, there's not a lot to see. Its capital is down here, St. Helier, named after the saint. I think it was around 550 that St. Helier was active, and that's got about 33,000 people. I guess the big thing to see is this is the biggest of the Channel Islands, and if you look at the scale here, this is 10 kilometers, and Jersey itself is not much bigger than that, so it's a small island. This gives a little more detail on Jersey. It's about 46 square miles. It's about 12 nautical miles from the Cotentin Peninsula in Normandy, in France, and it's about 87 nautical miles south of Great Britain. And as I said, it's the largest and southernmost of the Channel Islands. So they've been taking censuses there since like 1821. So in the 2021 census, the total resident population of Jersey was about 103,000 people, and 35% of that live in St. Helier, which is it's the only town on the island. So, when we look at this map, Jersey and Guernsey and the other Channel Islands, in between France and England and so close, you can see how they're such a strategic place historically, especially in World War II. During the Second World War, the island was invaded and occupied for 5 years by Nazi Germany. It's Jersey, Guernsey, all the Channel Islands. And what they did, they built what they called part of the Atlantic Wall. Between 1940 and 45, the occupying German forces constructed fortifications like this one, this tower here, around the coast of the Channel Islands. And this, for example, is an observation tower at Leyland in Jersey. So you can see they're right there. They can observe Britain really well here. It's close to France, which they occupied, and very close to Britain. And again, you can see the strategic location of it here. This is a map and a drawing of the Battle of Britain boundaries, bases, and radar coverage. Okay, so here we've got Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England. Here we got France, which the Germans had. And here we've got the Channel Islands. Okay, so it's really close to to Britain for observing, for firing guns or whatever. And you can see here, here's Luftwaffe fighter bases, these blue circles here. Here's bomber bases for the Luftwaffe. Here's the radar and the fighter command bases of the British. This is a really good map if you're into World War II strategies and history and all. But you can see these Channel Islands here is very strategic. So this is a statue celebrating Jersey's liberation from Nazi occupation. On May 9th, 1945, which they now celebrate as the island's National Day, that's when they were liberated from the Nazis. So let's look at the other major island in the Channel Islands. This is Guernsey. Its population is about 63,000. So as we said, the bailiwick of Guernsey has the three jurisdictions. Guernsey, the island of Guernsey here, Alderney up here, and Sark down here. Each has its own legislator. And here's some smaller islands like Herm and Little Sark and all that. But so here's a fun with the maps fact. When the Nazis occupied the islands in World War II, the population of Sark down here largely remained where they were. They stayed there. But in Alderney up here, all but 6 people left. Okay? So the Germans were occupying Alderney. They built 4 prison camps there, and they had about 6,000 people, and about 700 people died there. So Alderney was the only Nazi concentration camps on British soil. So this is in Guernsey, the bailiwick of Guernsey, but this is the island of Guernsey, and that's the capital called St. Peter Port. So during the war, the Royal Navy would blockade the islands from time to time, especially after the invasion of Normandy in June 1944. But this it caused a lot of hunger and problems, while the Germans occupied it, for the citizens of the island. So especially near the end when they were close to starvation. Under the UK Interpretation Act of 1978, the Channel Islands are deemed to be part of the British Islands, which is different from the British Isles. Okay? Confusing, but the British Islands are not the British Isles. So for the purpose of the British Nationality Act of 1981, the quote, British Islands include the United Kingdom, which is Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Channel Islands, which are all of these, and the Isle of Man. So it's confusing, but that's how it is. So both bailiwicks issued their own banknotes and coins and stamps. Here's some commemorative stamps from 1992 in Jersey, commemorating an adventurer and writer born on Jersey called William Mesny, his 150th birthday. Here's a fun with maps fact. So after the failure of a revolution in 1848, 39 French revolutionaries were exiled in Jersey, including the famous French author Victor Hugo. So first he was in Jersey and then in Guernsey, and that's where actually he finished Les Miserables. So Guernsey is also the setting of Victor Hugo's later novel Les Travailleurs de la Mer, and there's mention of a Guernsey man in Herman Melville's Moby Dick. I guess the other kind of popular figure from Jersey or Guernsey would be Gilbert O'Sullivan. He's that Irish singer. You may remember the song Alone Again Naturally. He actually lives in Jersey now. So Gilbert O'Sullivan is a Jersey man right now. So this is something I find very interesting about the Channel Islands. All of the main islanders have traditional animal nicknames. And this is a statue of a toad, with French crapaud, in St. Helier in Jersey. And it represents the traditional nickname for Jersey people, les crapauds, the toads. So Jersey is the only of the Channel Islands that has toads native there. And some people of the other islands kind of use crapaud to refer to residents of Jersey in a derogatory way. It's not the most flattering. In Guernsey, they call them les ânes, which are donkeys. And the people from Guernsey say, well, that's because our capital, St. Peter Port, is very steep, and the streets require beasts of burdens, and the Guernsey people are strong of character, you know, and that's why they're the donkeys. Well, of course, the Jersey people turn that around and you know, interpret that as stubbornness with the donkeys. And then Sark, they're the crows, or Les Corbeaux. Why? Well, they said crows could be seen from the sea on the island's coast. And the fourth one is Alderney, Les Lapins, or the rabbits, because there's a lot of rabbit warrens on Alderney. So it's pretty cool. You've got toads, donkeys, crows, and rabbits on these little islands there. So here's a map from New Netherland, Nieuw-Sverige. You know, we mentioned a connection. We all know this U.S. state, Jersey, New Jersey, and what's the connection with Jersey? So in the 17th century, the region that is now New Jersey. Here's New Jersey, right? Okay. It came under the control of both the Swedes and the Dutch. Okay? Sverige, Swedish, Dutch, Netherlands up here in the pink, the purple, okay? So in 1664, the English seized the Dutch colony of New Netherlands. So this pink area here, the English grabbed it. They renamed it the province of New Jersey. And they chose that name in honor of someone named Sir George Carteret, who defended the island of Jersey during the English Civil War. So here we've got was the Dutch, and here was the Swedish, and the English took this over 1664. Fun with Maps fact: the original New Netherlands settlement. You know, here's New Netherlands. The settlement of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Jersey City, of course, they've grown, evolved into the New York metropolitan area, which is the largest metropolitan area in the U.S. So this was Dutch, this was Swedish, and the British took it over, and this became New Jersey because of that, the help during the English Civil War. Okay, and finally, what about the cows? You know, we've heard of Jersey cows, we've heard of Guernsey cows. The Jersey is a breed of small dairy cattle from Jersey. There are 3 breeds of cattle breeds in the Channel Islands. So you have the Jerseys, you have the Guernseys, and the other was the Alderneys, which is now extinct. So here's a Jersey. It's been exported to the U.S. and Denmark and France and New Zealand and Nepal, and it's really an independent breed. And the Guernsey, here's Guernseys. That's a breed of dairy cattle from the island of Guernsey, of course, and it's fawn or red or white in color. It's hardy and docile. You know, if you're interested in the difference between Jerseys and Guernseys and other cows and all, you know, I encourage you to look it up. But it's just it's just not something for this episode. So, you know, you never know what you're going to see in an episode of Fun with Maps. Here we've got cows this time. I guess there's a couple of TV shows that are very popular, called Jersey Shore and The Real Housewives of New Jersey on TV. I've never seen them. I probably never will. I think I might watch a show based on the people of the islands of Jersey and Guernsey, though. That might be interesting. So thanks for watching. We both thank you. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments section. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Fun with Maps. I'm your host, Dan Hansen, and until next time, keep on having fun with maps. Moo.